What's good, Atlanta? This is the Blog and Dirty Podcast, where Dirty Bird is the word. If you haven't heard, I'm your host, John Buhler, lead writer for FanSided. For those who are new to the show, this is an Atlanta Falcons podcast tied to the FanSided site covering the Atlanta Falcons, Blog and Dirty. Before we begin, be sure to hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, give us a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere there's podcasts. This team's not good, but this show's good. And I'll promise to give you the best I can today on Wednesday and then on Sunday, whenever we have games, just try to keep this thing going. This is a good opportunity for me to kind of vent about the Falcons. Again, I predominantly cover college football for FanSided in the NCAA division. Like I say, on just about every show, I get to ride the highs of being a Georgia Bulldogs fan and the lows of being an Atlanta Falcons fan. Your sports fandoms all can't be coming up aces at any given time. Eventually, it's going to flip. I don't know when it is. It's got to flip at some point right now, but let's get started here with our first run of the day. We're doing 3 yards in a cloud of punt. Here on the Blog and Dirty Podcast, runs are 2 things that I feel very strongly about in the positive. Pass is something I don't feel very strongly about in the negative. And then punt, we're just going to defer and try to figure that out later. So let's get started here with our first run of the day. The guys just got to keep playing hard. Even if this coaching staff just stinks, you got to keep playing hard. Look, this is something that drives me absolutely insane when it comes to covering the NFL. And again, I've been covering football for a decade now. I've been at FanSided in some capacity for 10 years. I've covered the Falcons, I've covered the Raiders, covered the league at large, covered Georgia. It doesn't matter. I've covered pretty much everything. Look, it doesn't serve the Falcons this year to tank. They don't have their first-round pick. The LA Rams do, because we have their first-round pick from this past year in James Pearce Jr., which has worked out great for us. But anytime anybody's saying, oh, you got to lose, you got to do whatever you can to get a better draft pick, no, you don't. Look, players and coaches do not tank. Organizations do. And in reality, do you really want to have that? Do you want to be tied to that? No, that's what the Dolphins do. They beat us, but that's why they haven't won a playoff game since the year of the hanging Chad in 2000. Long live Dave Wannstedt and Jay Feeler, and this is the Blog and Dirty Podcast. Take a sip of coffee real quick and really try to unpack this as best as I can, just from a pure overall vibe standpoint. There are talented players on this team. I don't think anybody who watches the Falcons play, as closely as you and I do, or anybody from the league at large, they'll look at the players on the field and be like, there's talent to be had there. And this is kind of where it's become an interesting paradigm, if you will. People want Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson and now Marquice Williams out. They like Jeff Ulbrich calling the defense. That's kind of how I would feel as, a diehard Falcons fan. Maybe people that are casual would probably agree with me too if they knew who they were. But as far as Raheem Morris is concerned, I think he's drafted well enough to merit getting another opportunity. The question is, if Raheem is that cooked, who are you honestly going to be able to bring in here that's going to want to work with Terry Fontenot? And I think at that point, you probably got to go clean slate. You got to try to figure out, who you can bring in from a head coaching standpoint. And again, I cover a lot of college football. We're seeing some major issues right now happening with the Penn State and Nittany Lions. I probably touched on this on Sunday's show, maybe a little bit, because it's just odd. They fired James Franklin, at the early part of the year. And, after an 0-3 start in Big Ten play to be 3-3, they lost the next 3 games after firing him and then won their final 3 over Michigan State, Nebraska, and Rutgers, 3 not very good teams, particularly with Nebraska losing Dylan Raiola for the season. Firing James Franklin sent a really bad message to the major power broker in, coaching representation in Jimmy Sexton. He's not going to send anybody worth a damn to Happy Valley. So they might as well just be served to promote Terry Smith from within. Kalani Sitake said no. Eli Drinkwitz, Clark Lee have all gotten extensions. Brian Hartline is going to go to South Florida. Will Stein's going to go to Kentucky. Pat Kraft probably needs to be let go. This is the biggest tire fire of a coaching situation I've seen in college football since Tennessee. in the wake of them moving on from God, what was it? Who the hell was the guy? Butch Jones, I guess. And then they ended up hiring a Jeremy Pruitt, and that didn't work. Like, if the Falcons are going to make a move, for as much as I think Fontenot has earned the right to at least get one more crack at it, you probably got to do a clean slate here. Because, look, I think the biggest thing we have to remember is Raheem Morris is like our sixth choice. Why couldn't we make it work with Mike Vrabel? I told y'all he was awesome. The Titans are stupid for firing him, and look at how good the Patriots are. They haven't lost a game in 3 months, man. They've become Notre Dame of the AFC East. They've got to like an 0-2 start, and then have won like 10 in a row. Patriots might win the AFC. Honestly, they're probably my pick to win the AFC. Drake May might win a Super Bowl, or not. He could win Super Bowl MVP. I mean, I don't know. He may win a league MVP at this point. The point is, we're 4-8, and we're not even close to that. We should be thanking our lucky stars that the Saints are terrible, but the Panthers are ahead of schedule than us because I don't know, they hired the right head coach. I told y'all Dave Canellis was going to be good. David Tepper is more of a problem than Arthur Blank, but like at some point, like, can we stop, having the mic, being micromanage the piss out of each other? Like, what are we doing? And we remove Rich McKay from the equation. It's still the same thing. It's because Arthur Blank's in charge, and he's done great things for the city and everything like that. But it might be time to pass the baton. But regardless, the players have to play hard, because here's what happens: if you play hard in all three phases, offense, defense, and special teams, you're going to get somebody. There's going to be somebody out there who wants this job or is in need of a job that may want this and say, you know what? I really like Xavier Watts at safety. I love Jalon Walker and James Pearce Jr. coming off the edge. That Cade Knowles guy is really special. We all know what Jesse Bates III is capable of. We all know what Chris Lindstrom's capable of. I think a lot of people, for the most part, would want to. Why does everybody bother me when I'm recording? I don't understand this, for the love of God. Why is this the case? It's unbelievable. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter if I'm doing this during the day. Anyway, like Drake London's playing hard. You got to get Kyle Pitts in there. Just everything needs to happen, because your future becomes limited when you don't give your best effort. In anything in life, even if things aren't going your way, you need to put forth the best effort you possibly can. And look, I think the players at this point need to play for themselves, not necessarily the coaches. They may like the coaches as people, but they're just not good at their job. And the franchise, this fan base, and the NFL is suffering for this. Even though the NFL has done so great for so long without the Falcons really being that great of a franchise, I think they would love to see a team in the Southeast, in the biggest metropolis in that part of the country, be good. They would love that. They would love to see this fan base get fired up, but we've just been disappointed perpetually since 28-3. Honestly, since Fourth and Sark, haven't made the playoffs since then. He's won 2 playoff games at Texas. He may be thinking he could belong there now, but that's not the case. You got to keep playing hard. So let's move on to our second topic of the day, our second run. You got to try to find some momentum on offense while you can. There were pockets in the last couple of games with Kirk Cousins starting at quarterback, filling in for the injured Michael Penix Jr., where I'm like, this could work. This could absolutely work. I think being able to play under center affords Cousins to do what he does best, use the play action pass to open up wider passing lanes. He's an accurate passer, but doesn't have the zip on the ball that he used to. Not that he ever really had that much, or a lot of athleticism. It's something that I think Michael Penix Jr. needs to get better at immediately. I understand he can't really walk right now. Just figure out how to take a snap under center. Because I saw plays where, Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier were able to kind of get what they went off line of scrimmage. Bijan had a phenomenal day, and we still lost, mostly because the special teams were ass. And the play calling with Zach Robinson continues to blow my mind every single day and twice on Sunday. It's truly unbelievable. No wonder that Oklahoma State wanted no business hiring him. They're like, you know what? We'll take Eric Morris over you. We'll take a guy that actually runs an air raid offense and a Mike Leach disciple over whatever the hell you're doing in the NFL. So I don't know if Drake London's going to play this week. Maybe he does. He's missed the last 2 games. He's kind of been hurt. Maybe, keep him out as long as you can. This is kind of a lost season. guys, you got to catch the ball with your hands. You got to do that. That really ruined the Falcons' chances of being able to win the game. I understand it was kind of a constant rainfall there at MetLife. I understand the field's actively trying to kill you. Well, you're going to be playing at home in a dome in ideal, pristine conditions. You gotta make it. You gotta make a chance here. Can nobody effing read that I'm recording right now? Can nobody read? Like, it's just, is everybody just stupid? I don't understand this team. I do the Falcons podcast and I just feel dumber about this. I'm just like, why am I subjecting myself to this nonsense? You got to find some momentum on offense while you can. You got to do it because, look, I don't think Raheem Morris is going to survive the season. They have to make a move. If you bring him back, what are you going to do? You're just going to fire him into week 5 next year? There's no point in any of that. So you got to find ways to play hard. I will say that I've been noticing this thing with the offense that does kind of bother me. I think the offensive line's starting to fall apart a little bit. I think you've held up as long as you can with Elijah Wilkinson, the right tackle. It's clear that he's like a replacement level player. I mean, obviously, we had Caleb McGarry out there. You'd be a little bit better, maybe a little bit better at the run. Maybe, I don't know if you're better at pass protection. There have been some instances where, like, even with the guys who are stalwarts in the offensive line, I feel like other teams are kind of getting to them. I feel like there's kind of a vulnerability there on the side of, on the Matthew Bergeron side of Ryan Newsel. I think that they kind of attack there. They'll kind of do stuff and kind of mess with their heads and like kind of put Jake Matthews in tough spots. I also kind of feel like Chris Lindstrom is being asked to do a lot. I feel like he's going to be penalized a good bit too here. It's a mess because, like, you've got no rhythm offensively. We're like the worst third down team in the NFL. It's kind of like there's no medium passing game in this team. It's either dink and dunk or deep passes. There's no real medium to long. When you're 3rd and 8, like, I feel like we're not going to convert it more often than not because, you basically need a play to break down and something to open up. I don't think Zach Robinson's really able to kind of scheme anything open here. It's so alarming. But anyway, like, you got to try to find offensive rhythm while you can. Particularly when you're going up against the Seattle Seahawks here. Sam Darnold was not the problem there in Minnesota. I think he was actually good. J.J. McCarthy, Quizzy Minnesota was the problem. Not really good vibes there in Minneapolis. So at least I called that. We beat them. They're not very good either. They're going to finish in last place in the NFC North behind Chicago, who's on fire right now. Green Bay is still there. Detroit might pull back because, the consequence of losing your coordinators, particularly one in division. Another one that beat us, in Aaron Glenn. So give the Jets credit there to kind of be had. As far as finding momentum, I just don't know. I don't know how you do it within the constructs of Zach Robinson's offense. It's like you get 2 good plays, you have a bad play. You can't get 3. If you're trying to go like, you can't get 3 good consecutive plays in a row. It's so baffling. And I think when you have offensive talent like that, it's mind-numbing too because, like, you're constantly, behind the chains. You're in less than advantageous situations. The defense knows you're kind of scrambling too. And then you got to put your kickers in tough spots. And don't get me started in our kicking game. Zane Gonzalez, you're asking to be kick a 50-something yard field goal in the rain. He made one, he missed one. That's life. But, like, you gotta try to find ways to develop momentum on offense. And I think it starts with catching the ball. That's something you can probably control a little bit more. If the other team's like really stacking up box and making it hard to run outside tackle, I get that. If they're covering you up, that's good. Penalties happen. You try to be a little more locked in here, but when the ball's thrown your way, try to catch it. And, maybe we'll see what happens. I don't know how many more wins we're going to have this season. Maybe a few, probably not a lot, but we're 4-8. We're probably going to be like something like a 6-11, 7-10 team, to be straight with you. You still got the Cardinals and the Saints on the schedule, and you got to play with the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Rams, and the Bucs. So, and the Bucs on a short week too. So that's all going to be challenging. So yeah, that's what I got here for run. Let's move to our 3rd down, which is pass. I don't think I can stomach another example of coaching malpractice. I don't think I can do it. It's absolutely unbelievable how poorly coached this team is. I think Jeff Ulbrich's a really good defensive mind, and I think that that's really held true throughout the entire season. I think Zach Robinson has no feel for offensive play calling. I think he wants to 11 personnel everybody to death. I think the fact that he has two quarterbacks to work with, and Michael Penix Jr. and Kirk Cousins, who play completely differently, despite neither of them really being much of a runner, is challenging. You got a guy in Penix who's left-handed, who throws it incredibly hard, but has to kind of operate out of shotgun or on the pistol to do anything because he's not used to taking a snap under center. This is a consequence of playing for Kalen DeBoer. We'll see how that impacts Ty Simpson's draft stock here at some point too. I don't know if he's QB1, but he's probably going to be a first-round pick, even though he's only started 1 year of college football. The other is the other one I would say is Cousins, accurate guy, made a lot of money, throw some picks, doesn't win clutch games for the most part. Never really super mobile to begin with. Hurt as well. Coming back with he had a bum shoulder and then he had the Achilles injury. So again, his mobility was questioned. He's looking a little bit better now, but this is a tough year. He's getting beat up, man. I do kind of feel for him in some ways, but then again, maybe I don't. He got his opportunity to start. He's showing people what he can do. I think he's 1-1 as a starter, since Penix got hurt. So he's 1-2 on the year. The Dolphins game's kind of thrust into him. That's kind of challenging. But look, at this point, I've really got no use for Zach Robinson, Marquice Williams, or Raheem Morris. I just don't. We talked about Robinson a bunch on here. He just wasn't ready for this. When you get somebody from the McVay Shanahan coaching tree, be careful what you get, because what are they actually doing? It's the same thing we kind of thought about with Andy Reid. To what degree is Doug Peterson impacting the game? To what degree is Matt Nagy impacting the game? Andy Reid's calling the plays. We all know that that's what Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay do. Zach Robinson, maybe he'll be great at this the next time around. Maybe he'll learn a lot, but I kind of feel that the learning curve is a little too steep for him. And I think the fact that Raheem Morris empowers a certain level of arrogance when it comes to, we're not going to play starters in the preseason. Penix isn't comfortable taking a snap under center. Figure it out. You're the Falcons. You're not the Chiefs. You're not the Eagles. Who do you think you are? If you get decadent like this when in practice, it shows up in the games. And I think even more so, you see how poorly coached this team is. That comes up on special teams to Marquice Williams. Look, this isn't so much on him as much as it is on the entire staff, because you're not locked in when the ball's changing hands. We lost that game to the Jets because we were terrible on special teams. You muff the punt. You have Agnew lose another yardage on another punt. You give up a huge gain. The Jets capitalized in all three of those situations. And not to say that Aaron Glenn is that much better of a head coach than Raheem Morris, but he's better than Raheem Morris. We're coming up dead in every single game we play somebody. Kellen Moore is brand new to this too. But Raheem Morris, you've been the head coach for 5 years. He's been in the league for a long time. This shouldn't be this gosh darn difficult, but apparently it is. It's just, this is why people had trepidation about the hire. They're what are we doing? This is the day and age of everything. A's hire A's and B's hire C's. What does C's hires? They hire F's. And Raheem Morris is a good guy. I know he really wanted to try to make this work. It's not happening. I don't know where we go. I don't know who we potentially target as a head coach at this point. I'll probably keep it on, but it's just miserable right now watching and covering this team, because I know the talent's there. I know that there's been guys who've been drafted. Look at Brandon Dorless, man. He's got 6 sacks, 4th round pick out of Oregon. He's making things happen. James Pearce Jr., Jalen Walker making it work. Watts is making it work on defense. It's amazing how much better the team plays when JD Bertrand's not out there, and you have Ronnie Harrison kind of spelling Divine Diablo out there as well. Offensively, it's kind of just been a cluster all year long. It's mostly like, let's get the ball to Bijan every other play, and maybe we'll pray for the best. If he needs to spell, we'll put Algier out there. I just sometimes I wonder if we had even a replacement level coaching, particularly a head coach, offense, and special teams, that would have made a difference. It's making a difference on defense, but it's not mattering because the other areas of the team were just so pitiful. And you know what? Let's get out of here with some fun here. Let's make a pick against the spread versus the Seahawks. God. So I'm pulling up the latest odds here from a FanDuel Sportsbook. Seattle is laying 7.5 at Atlanta. Oh man, that is an emotional kick in the balls right there. The associated money lines for this game are Seattle minus 405, Atlanta plus 320. The over/under is 44.5. I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna pick Seattle to win 30-20. So it's gonna be 50. We're gonna lose by 10. Because you know what, I think we're due for a Kirk Cousins pick six, like of the real variety, not the one of like that happened versus the Saints where it just kind of fell into his hands. Like, I don't think that's really, we're due for some other sort of coaching catastrophe here, and this will kind of play the same sort of way that every Falcons game does. First two quarters will kind of be feeling out period. I'm like, okay, we're making some plays. Maybe we'll turn it around this time. Then there'll be instances where maybe it's not going to be our day. Then, we'll make something happen the third quarter, or they'll make something happen. And then we'll get into this, we're down by a touchdown or 3 points or something like that. And then something dumb happens in the final minutes, because this is always the funny part about this sort of game. I played them last year. And my fiance always says, she has a theory called the third quarter perspective, where you really only have to pay attention to a football game from the third quarter on, based on how many possessions that are left and the time and what the score is. That'll dictate what happens. And I say there's one caveat, or really two caveats. Anything and everything bad can happen when the Falcons are playing, and anything and everything good can happen when the Seahawks are playing. So we're at a crossroads right here. And then they don't cancel each other out. They actually kind of magnify it, where it's doubly good for the Seahawks and doubly bad for the Falcons. I'm at this point in time, I just hope people get to stay healthy. I don't want to see anybody get hurt, but I really want to I want it to become painfully obvious that we got to make a coaching change. We may have to make other changes here too. It's like we're close, but it's become so painfully obvious that we're not quite there because of key leadership positions. And I mean, that's how organizations fall apart. If you don't have good ownership or good leadership, you're screwed. I mean, why do you think all the best teams in the NFL have had this? Because they've had good ownership, good leadership forever. And then you look at college football and stuff like that. When you have a really good head coach who's kind of embodying the entirety of the program, you can have a lot of success with that too. But when you have good head coaches, when you have good owners, good things happen. I don't think Arthur Blank's a bad owner. I think he just cannot pick a head coach for the life of him. The best head coach he employed was Dan Reeves, and he inherited him, and he got rid of him because Michael Vick broke his leg in a preseason game, because we're the Falcons, and that's what we do. I don't know what's going to happen versus the Seahawks, but I'm just prepared for whatever it is. But I'll be back here on Sunday after the game to kind of give you a recap there with 3 yards and a cloud of punt here as well. Yeah, this was episode 70 of the Blog and Dirty podcast. You can follow me, John Buhler, on Twitter or the X at Buhler118. You can follow the show on YouTube at Blog and Dirty FS. You can follow along with the site on X at Blog and Dirty. Rate, listen, subscribe, review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere there's podcasts. Give us a 5-star review. Really helps the show grow. Hovering around 350 subscribers there on the channel. You guys are really digging the stuff that's happening there, with our shorts from before, and there's been some pretty good engagement with the last couple of episodes as well. Again, I'm going to keep doing this for the rest of the season, a Wednesday midweek show, kind of previewing what's to come, and then kind of a recap after the games. So, I guess I think it's like I got Sunday this week, after the Seahawks game. Then it'll be a Wednesday game, then a Thursday recap show after, Thursday Night Football versus the Buccaneers. But then, I think we get to what? After that's what's the Cardinals, Rams. Rams will be, I think, on a Monday night. And then for some reason, God, maybe they'll flex that out. And then Sunday versus the Saints. So, kind of working our way here. Got 2 more primetime games left, but this is going to be a 1 o'clock kick here in delightful Atlanta inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I know I ranted a little bit today. It's National Signing Day in college football. I'm doing the show and no one cares. We are going to keep doing this. Once again, thanks for listening. And this is the Blog and Dirty Podcast.